marching through the streets of Halifax, demanding action on climate change. A few years ago, young Nova Scotians joined a global climate activism movement, calling on policymakers to take bolder and swifter action to protect their futures. Now, those youth have been invited inside the halls of government.
And so when I saw this kind of come up as an opportunity, I was so excited to see, that we were going to start having maybe a more formalized process for youth to be involved in the policy-making process in Nova Scotia, specifically on climate.
Sophia Linfield was one of the members of Nova Scotia's first Youth Climate Council. For the better part of a year, she and a dozen other young adults and teenagers met regularly with government officials and sometimes the environment minister. She went into it feeling optimistic, but when her term ended this spring, she walked away feeling disappointed.
So it just seemed very clear that when we got into those rooms that there wasn't actually a concrete desire to actually be working on, having a formalized process for youth to be providing their voices. And instead there was just interest in, using our photos on the cover of the progress report.
The province's newest environmental law, passed here 3 years ago, requires an annual progress report.
On the cover of this year's report, the Youth Climate Council, standing beside Environment Minister Tim Hallman. Linfield calls it tokenization. The minister says it's an honest representation of what he thinks is important.
And I certainly very much appreciate their perspective and value their contribution. It's so impressive to see so many young people stepping up, and they care about this issue.
Hallman chalks the criticism up to a healthy diversity of opinion. Opinions from council members were varied. CBC News spoke to several members of the inaugural council. Some were happy with the way it went.
It works out really, really well because while on the council, I was able to chair and champion, most of our climate education initiatives, whether that be climate change learning in public schools, whether that be climate plans for schools, whether that be climate training for educators.
Peter Oyedijo says there is more he'd like to do on the council, which is why he's applied to join for a second time this fall. But another round is not as appealing for everyone.
As of right now, I don't think that I would honestly just want to put myself through it again, because again, it was exhausting sometimes going into those meetings and coming in with such a sense of hope and urgency, and then having my concerns either be completely dismissed or not listened to.
Even though she won't be part of it, Linfield says she is glad the council will continue. It's funded for at least 3 more years. For now, she'll go back to calling for change from the outside. Taryn Grant, CBC News, Halifax.